So everybody, welcome. Today's webinar is Getting to Know Android Phones and Tablets. My name is Rebecca Van Dusen. I'm the Library Associate here at the Champaign Public Library. If you've attended any tech workshops in person, you've probably seen me before. I assist with Susan, and occasionally I'll also teach a class. Before I introduce Susan, our technology librarian, I want to mention some information about the library. We are open to the public for normal hours. But if you didn't want to come in, you can always give us a call, email us, or chat with us through our website. And we are also still offering our curbside services. If you don't want to come inside to pick up your holds, we'll run them out to you. We are also still offering our Book a Librarian service virtually if you need help at home. So to request a session, you'll visit champaign.org/book-a-librarian, and I'll put that in the chat in just a second. And you'll fill out the request form there, and then we'll work with you to figure out how to correspond. So that could either be over email, we could meet over Zoom, or even through like phone or chat, whatever works for you basically. And then let's go over some Zoom features as well. Near the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a little chat bubble. So if you click on that, that will actually open up a chat window and you can ask questions through chat. So if you wanted to type out your question, you could do that. There's also a raise hand button. So if you wanted to raise your hand and ask a question that way, we could work with you. I'll be monitoring chat while Susan's doing the webinar. So if you have a question, I'll probably be answering it with chat. And then you can also adjust your audio. I believe that's at the bottom left of your screen where you can adjust your speaker volume. And then we're going to try something new for this webinar. So when we get to our first questions panel, I'm actually going to go ahead and unmute everybody. So if they wanted to ask a question verbally, they could do that too. So sometimes we find that people find it easier to ask a question verbally rather than typing out like a whole paragraph of a sentence. So we're going to try that first today. And then of course, if you have any technical difficulties, let me know as well. We can work with you and try to figure out those too. So let's go ahead and get started. This is Susan Winkler, our technology librarian. Hi, Susan.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Thanks for joining us today. Happy everyone could come and be here, or be here virtually at least. And yes, so Rebecca's, what we're going to cover today, you are here for the Getting to Know Android Phones and Tablets class workshop that we do here at the library. And we're going to do some live demos today. And again, as Rebecca said, we're happy to answer questions. And I do try to do it so that everybody can kind of follow along. If you're, hopefully you have a second device that you're watching on, so you can practice and try the things as we do them. But if not, feel free, again, as Rebecca said, we're gonna have a video of this up after the fact, and then you could practice on your device and watch the video too. So hopefully that will help everyone out. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and share our PowerPoint for today. And we do have this PowerPoint available for everyone. If you're interested, we can send it to you after. Let me jump back to the beginning. Here you go. Okay, does everyone see Getting to Know Android Phones and Tablets?
Yes, I see that.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so what we're gonna cover today, we're gonna cover the tablet and phone buttons on your Android device. Then we're gonna cover the home screen, what the home screen is, and how to navigate through the different screens that you have. And then we're going to cover your settings and some of the major settings that you might want to be able to change or know where they are so that you can change them when you want. Then we'll cover apps. We'll cover how to install an app, how to delete an app, and then also how to move an app and how to make a folder. And we'll also cover Task Manager, and the Task Manager allows you to close out of your apps. We often find that folks, the first time they attend one of our Android classes, possibly don't realize that all of those apps that you've opened will stay open in the background. So hopefully Task Manager will help save some battery life for you. So, all right. So the first thing I want to talk about is which Android do you own? And you might have a phone or a tablet, but the brand won't matter so much because the Android operating system, and we call that the OS as the abbreviated term. The OS of Android is kind of like the backbone that everything's built on. And then each brand customizes it for themselves. So if you have a Samsung device, or you have a Motorola device, or can't think of any other ones off the top of my head, but no matter what brand you have, the operating system is Android, unless you have an iPhone. If you have an iPhone or an iPad, then it's Apple and the Apple operating system. So, but for Android, it's a little bit like if you have sneakers and your sneakers are Nike brand sneakers, and then you have the, like say you have Air Jordans, right? So you have Air Jordans, and so they're slightly different than the other Nike shoes, but Nike is like the Android operating system. So it's kind of the overarching umbrella operating system. So our phone buttons and our tablet buttons, because Android phones and tablets can come from any brand, even though they all have some buttons, they may be in different places. So on your own particular device, you might have your power button on the top or on the side. So even though with this example that we have on the screen, the power button is on the side, you might find yours on top or on the left-hand side instead of the right-hand side. But what we're gonna do today is kind of go over helping you discover where they are and what those buttons will do. So you're also gonna have your volume controls, which means a chance for you to turn up the volume when you're in a call or when you're listening to music or anything like that, and also to turn it down. Then you have a couple of, and I'm going to do a live demo here in just a moment too and show you where these things are on our device. So you also have a return back button, which when you're in an app, if you want to go back to the screen you were previously on, you can hit that back button. And you also have a task manager button. As I just mentioned, the task manager allows you to close out of apps, and we'll demo how to do that. And then you have a home button. And the home button is usually going to be a big, thick, round button at the bottom of your device on the front. So, okay. Now you'll see the same thing is true on the Android tablet, where even though you have a power button and volume controls that are next to each other on this particular tablet we're looking at here on the screen, you can also see down below the task manager button, home button, back button. So those are all going to be kind of in the same place. And then we're going to talk about what each of these buttons do in just a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and demo. I'm going to switch back here real quick so I can demo that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to switch us to the live demo. Hopefully y'all can see the tablet here. Now,
Yep, I can see it.
Excellent. So what I'm going to show you, so this is our Android tablet that we have here at the library. I've set it for a very short time frame right now so that we can demo the lock function in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock it here. And I'll show you that in a minute too. But here's my general screen. And let me give it a second to kind of focus in there. How's that looking? A little fuzzy. Let me adjust that a little bit. Does that look better?
Yeah, I think that looks okay.
Okay. All right. So this is our Android tablet. And what I want to show you are the buttons that we're going to be dealing with today. So if you notice on the side for me, my power button is right here. So that's my power button. And next to that, the one that's a little bit longer is my volume button. And you might not be able to tell that that's the volume button because there's no like plus or minus signs to mark it. Yours might have a plus or a minus sign to say lower volume or increased volume. Mine doesn't have that, but when I touch it, it will show me up at the top that if you see up at the top there, that it's adjusting the volume for media on that little slide bar there. Okay, so that's how I know. And then my power button, if I hit my power button just briefly, it's going to give me a blank screen or a turned off screen, basically. We call that sleep mode. So when you want to put your device into sleep mode, which will help save the battery life on your device, and also if the screen is really bright and you're not actually using it, you can tap that power button and put it into sleep mode. And then here you get kind of a meta view of our camera here too. So that's your power button, my power button, and my volume buttons. And then over here, the home button, I'll show that in just a second. I want you to see when I tap the task manager, which for me has two little squares next to each other, that's my task manager. And then here is my back button. So the back button looks like an arrow kind of going to the left. Okay. Now yours might be reversed. They might be on your screen instead of here on your tablet. But that icon should look pretty similar no matter what you're looking at. I'm going to turn this off for just a second so then I can also show you the home button. So that home button is the big oval shaped button in the middle. Okay, and when I turn on the home button, that will wake up my device. So if you saw that, I turned off my device, not off, but I put it into sleep mode here, like that. And I can turn it back on from sleep mode, either here with the power button or by tapping my home button. And that'll turn it back on for me. Okay, so I wanted to show you those at the start. And if you're following along, you can go ahead and take a moment to play with those buttons. I'm going to show you one more thing that the home button can do. If you're connected to Wi-Fi or have a data plan where you can connect to the internet, you can also enable your Google Assistant. And your Google Assistant will help you answer questions. Much like if you've heard of Siri that they have for Apple devices, well, Google has the same thing for Android. So if I tap right here on my home button again, and I say, Google, how fast is a cheetah? So you get, this is your Google Assistant who's going to answer questions for you. Now, I usually also make the joke that you could call your public library and your public library would also look this up and verify it with a couple of different sources to see that the average is definitely 50 to 80 miles per hour, and we would check a couple other sources besides the source that Google is going to give you. But if you're wherever you are and you can't call your public library, then your Google Assistant can help you out. Okay. And if you want to set up your Google Assistant and don't have it set up yet, we can help with that as well at the end of class today. All right. I think that's everything that I wanted to show about the home screen. And then again, the differences here, I'm going to show the power button again. So with the power button, if you hold that in for long enough, and you may have already discovered this, you will turn your device off. So if I hold this in for this long, it actually asks me, I don't know if you can see that very well because it's with the power off. Let's see if I can get a little closer here so that you can see that it says, okay, so it's going to ask me, there, it's going to ask me if I want to power off my device or restart my device. In my case, I actually don't want to do either, so I'm just going to tap it again and it'll come back on. But so that's the one that you can use for your power to actually turn off your device. And then again, to put it to sleep like that. Okay, that's if I'm tapping on the side there. Okay, so that is our first section. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to attempt to do our first unlocking of and unmuting of folks so that if you had questions on that, you could ask them now.
Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and allow everybody to talk.
And we'll just take turns, hopefully.
Do that.
I think there should be a way to just say unmute everyone at the same time, but. And I'm going to go ahead and stay muted on my one that is attending as well. Okay.
So it looks like we have a raised hand.
Okay, excellent.
From Anthony. So Anthony can speak.
I don't know if this, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. I don't know if this is appropriate time or not. I have a Samsung phone.
Okay.
And I had a ringtone that was associated every time the phone would ring. It was specialized that someone set up for me. Well, they're not around anymore. And the last time it did a software system upgrade, it disappeared.
Okay.
With any other options of ringtones. And
okay.
I didn't know if that's the kind of thing you help with or not.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can totally help you with that. I would say that's something if you want at the end of the workshop, I can walk through that. I have an Android phone as well that I can grab to kind of show you how to set your ringtone if you want.
Okay.
But with our Galaxy tablet, we actually don't have ringtone since it's not actually a phone.
Yeah.
So I'm unable to demo that with this particular device, but I can grab
Okay.
the other device to show you. Yeah, but that's a great
Okay.
question. So please keep that and hold it until after the demo, and then I can go over that, and I'll grab the other
Sounds good.
device.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll make sure we get you set up with a new ringtone.
So if anybody else has a question they want to speak, you can just click on your mute button and it should unmute you.
Yeah, there should be a pop-up that actually says host would like to unmute you too. But if everybody else is good, or again, you can use the chat if you prefer to ask any questions.
Or you can raise a hand. Raising a hand too is a good way to do it.
Yeah. Okay. We'll give a couple seconds here, and then everybody's feeling pretty good about that. Okay.
I think we're good for now.
Okay.
Again, like everybody, we'll periodically stop for questions throughout, but if you have a question anytime throughout, feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is unlocking your device, like unlocking your screen. If you notice with mine, I have set it to not take a very long time to go to the lock screen for the purposes of this demonstration. So you see how it just went to the blank screen again, the dark screen. That's because I've set it right now to only be about 30 seconds before I have to go and wake it up. That's deliberately for us so that we can move through the demo where I can show you how the lock screen looks. Now, the lock screen is usually, and you might already be familiar with this, but your lock screen is where you would have to enter a PIN number, or you might have it set to do a fingerprint or a touch ID or facial recognition. It's basically the way that you would then get into your device, and it's an extra level of security for your device. So most of you may have already done that, but I do like to just mention it, that if you haven't set that up and you want to, we can help you with that. So let's see if we can get it to go to our lock screen. May take just a minute here. And that's something we can set. So if we give about 30 seconds. So while I'm waiting for that to go ahead and lock, because that's the shortest amount of time you can set it is 30 seconds. I believe the longest is 5 minutes. And that depends, again, on your brand of phone, too, because every Android is a little bit different. So you may have slightly different length of times before it will go to that lock screen. So, and if you use facial recognition, we have a volunteer who helps us who has that for her iPhone, and we sometimes get questions about, well, if I use facial recognition, but what if I have my hair up, or I haven't put on my makeup yet, or I'm wearing a hat or whatever. And she's like, well, it'll still recognize me. And she says for the most part, it does still recognize her, and we'll still let her in. But if you do choose to do facial recognition, you can also do the PIN number, so that if for some reason it doesn't let you in with your facial recognition, you have another method to fall back on too. So let's see if we've got it. Nope, okay. It doesn't want to go to our lock screen at the moment. Okay, well, I'm going to just show you in the settings. So this is where our settings are. Okay, oh, and I want my stylus pen here. So in your settings, and your settings might look a little bit differently than mine. Here I have it should look like a little bit of like a gear, kind of like a cog in a wheel or a gear in a machine. But yours may be blue and white, it may be yellow and orange, and it might look slightly different than this. But the good news is the app will always have the word settings underneath it, so you can tell which one it is. If I tap on settings, the place that I can set that is going to be under, for me, it's under lock screen right here, where then you can see mine is right now is a pin, but I could tap here and then I could change it. So I'll put in our pin number here we have for the library. and then I could change it. So if you see here, is that pretty well in focus? Let me see if I
Yes,
can make
it's
that.
okay.
Okay. So here I could change it to a password or a pattern. So I could do, you know, a pattern of dots or numbers. And then here you can see fingerprints. So that's the touch ID. So you could change what kind of lock experience you have. We'll give it a little more time before we can get into that. And then where you can set how long it takes is in the display. So in display, you can say screen timeout. And for us, oh, I guess 15 seconds. I was wrong. It's not 30 seconds, it's 15. That's very short. But you can set it so that it's 15 seconds before it will time out, and up to 10. So, okay. If there are any questions about that, let us know. I'm gonna go ahead and jump back since I can't, it hasn't actually gone into that mode yet. So we'll cover that in another moment. Okay. The next thing I wanna cover is the home screen. So if you're looking at the device right now, and you can see there are actually a couple of little icons down here, as well as your app icons up here. So your home screen is this first page. If I swipe to the right, I actually have a second page where I can put apps or other things on it. And if you'll notice down here, there's now a light on the middle down here instead of the first one. And you might not be able to see close up enough that that first one there looks like a little house. So if you see the little house, and that's for me specifically, again, your Android might be slightly different, where what you're gonna see here instead, it might be another circle. But that's my first circle, that's my first screen or my home screen. And then if I slide to the right, I get a second screen. I can slide to the right again and get a third screen. So what you might do for an activity to practice for yourself is figure out how many of those screens you actually have. If I slide to the left, it's gonna bring up something else. So you don't have to slide to the left unless you want to, and you can see what happens when you go to the left too. Okay, now if you get stuck somewhere else, like say I'm out here and I go, wait, how did I get there? I wanna get to my home screen. Well, there's a reason we call this big button over here the home button. That's because it will always take you back to that home screen, no matter where you are on your device. So if you ever are kind of lost out somewhere in the world of the device, if you tap that little button right there, it's going to take you back to that home screen. Okay, so that's one of those really nice things about the Android home screen. So for example, if I jump into an app, like let's say I'm going to go out onto the internet, so I jump into Chrome and I come out to the internet, and let's say I'm like, okay, I want to go back to my home screen. All I'm going to do, tap that home screen there, and it's going to take me right back to the home screen. Now that app is still open in the background, and we're going to close it using Task Manager in a little bit, but we'll leave it open for now. Are there any questions about that so far? If you do, please go ahead and throw them into the chat. Or if you give me one more moment, then we'll get to another point where we can ask questions. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about are notifications. So if you see right here, this little 1 here in the little orange circle, that's a notification. That's a notification coming from one of my apps to tell me there's something I could do. You're going to see this sometimes in your settings when you have to update your device. When it needs like a system update, then you would click on that and you could do it there. The other place where you can see notifications is by pulling down from the top of your device, of your screen, in between. If you see over here on the right-hand side, I've got the time, my battery life, and the little Wi-Fi symbol. And then on the left-hand side, I've got the time and a couple of other little symbols up here. Those are also notifications. But if you pull down from the middle, like this, you're going to get a screen that has your quick access settings, which is what this stuff is up in this area. And we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. And then you also get notifications. And I always enjoy when we do a live demo to see what kind of notifications we have on our device. These notifications are going to come from your apps and also from your device itself. So what we said, the operating system, the OS, they're also going to come from there. So if we look at some of these here, oops, let me pull it back down. There we go. So if I pull it back down, well, actually, let me go back to the home. Okay, we're going to come down like this. So it looks like we actually have an update for our software, and we've actually scheduled that to start tonight. Here's our Photos app is giving us a helpful hint about turning on faces to see our favorite people. A device restart is suggested, and then some stuff from Prisma, and then that we made a screenshot. Now, if I want to clear these individually, I can swipe to the left and it'll clear it. If I swipe to the right, it'll clear it. If I want to clear them all at once, I can use clear down here at the bottom. If you want to change your notification settings, so say you don't want to get a notice from an app, you can go into your notification settings here. And I'm going to go ahead and tap on that. And then you can see your apps here. And then you could set this by sliding it. Let's do it for photos. And you could slide it to the left or just tap on it and it'll slide that little bar from blue back to white. If it's white and to the left, it means that app is no longer going to send you notifications. If it's blue and to the right, that means it's going to send you notifications. Okay. Now I'm going to hit the home button again over here to go back to my home screen. All right. You can also get to your notifications from your lock screen. So for those of you with your phones, when it goes into that lock screen, you can still pull down from the top to get to your notifications, or it might be up on the side over here. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop and let us take a little moment for questions about notifications or anything that we've covered so far. So are there any questions?
I don't see any raised hands or anything.
Okay, if you did have questions about that, again, remember you can put it in the chat, or you can go ahead and raise your hand and we'll unmute you and you can ask that your questions. Okay. All right, so the next section we're going to cover is in your settings. So again, as we said, your settings, if I tap on that, your settings will control just about anything you want to customize on your tablet or your phone. You can also control your connections to the internet or your connections to other devices. And again, here's notifications. So if I wanted to tap on that, brings me back to that same place where I can do my notifications. I'm gonna jump back here. I can check my sounds. So I could also figure out, and this is where if you wanted to, for your phone, go into your settings, you might be able to find your ringtone in here and change your ringtone from here within your settings. You might be able to find something sounds and vibration, probably has a setting for ringtones in there as well. Okay, you can change your display, the lock screen, just about everything can be changed and customized in here. So I'm going to show you guys just a few of those things that you can customize and change and do to connect. So one of the most important things, I think, on a tablet or a phone is being able to connect to the internet through Wi-Fi or through your data plan. Now, if you have a phone, you probably have a data plan through a carrier like Verizon or AT&T, and you don't necessarily need Wi-Fi when you can use your data. However, for us, our tablet has to connect via Wi-Fi. So what I'm going to show you is how to do that. So the first way to do that, I'm going to show you with settings, which is the longer way, and then I'll show you the quick way. So the longer way with settings, so jump in here and then go to connections and pick Wi-Fi. So if I turn Wi-Fi off, you'll see here it says connect to a Wi-Fi network and it's white. If I make it blue, dun, 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 and then it says on, and then it should, if I tap on it, gave me a list of networks that I could connect to. So here we see Champaign Public Library. That's our Wi-Fi connection here in the library. And I'm already connected to it because my device remembers that the last time I was in the library, I also connected to it. So if you want to forget it, you can hit forget, and then you'd have to reconnect. But now that I've connected before, if my Wi-Fi is on, every time I come to the library, it's going to connect to the Wi-Fi network here in the library. Okay. Questions about that so far? Okay. All right. So the next thing I want to show you is how to get to that more quickly. So I'm going to go back to my home screen. And this should be true on your phone or your tablet. When I come here, if I pull down again from the middle, that's our quick, and we see our quick access settings across the top here. Those quick access settings includes the thing that looks a little bit like a fan. That's your Wi-Fi signal. So if I undo that, my Wi-Fi is now off. And if I undo this one, and I'll turn that one back on in a minute. So, and I can turn my volume off or my volume on or on vibrate. So this is sound, vibrate, or off completely. So we'll go ahead and turn the sound back on, and we'll go ahead and turn the Wi-Fi back on. Okay, so that's how to get to that from the quick settings. Okay. Then the next thing is connecting to Bluetooth. So if you're unfamiliar with Bluetooth, it's a fancy name for it is called near field communication, which basically means as long as this device is close enough to the device you want to connect it to, they will talk to each other over a radio signal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into our settings and our connections, and I'm going to go to Bluetooth, and I'm going to turn on Bluetooth. Now, Bluetooth, you might have it in your car, so it might be more familiar to you from being in your car, where you could connect your phone via Bluetooth to your car speakers. So that way you could be hands-free in the car on a call with someone. You might also know about Bluetooth speakers and Bluetooth headphones, where you can connect to Bluetooth speakers or Bluetooth headphones to then play your music. And that's what I'm actually going to do today. I'm going to show it just on the camera. We'll see if it works. So this is a speaker that we have that's Bluetooth enabled. So when I turn it on, which I'm going to do now, and then I'm going to enable Bluetooth, and Bluetooth looks like this little, I think it looks a little bit like a butterfly or a bee with little antenna, is Bluetooth. So when I tap that, now it's going to tell me, okay, this is going to tell me the Bluetooth is turned on the speaker. So now when I come back to the tablet and I say, okay, we're going to connect our speaker. So I'm going to hit Bluetooth, and then I'm going to turn it on, and it's going to search for nearby devices that it could connect to. And then this JBL flip, that's our Bluetooth speaker. So I'll tap that, and it's going to pair them. And it's going to say pair with, and I say okay. And now it's connected. So this now means that I could play something on my device, like an audiobook or music, and it would play out of my speaker here. So it can be very useful. It does run your battery down. So I do suggest if you're not actively using Bluetooth that you go ahead and turn it off, because in the background while it's on, it's constantly trying to scan for other Bluetooth signals and other devices. So if there are any questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop there in case there are any questions about Bluetooth or Wi-Fi and connections there. And then we'll move on to the next thing I want to show. Okay. So I'll give a chance to do that. Okay.
I don't see any questions so far.
No questions? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and show one more thing here in our quick settings screen, and that's how to change the brightness of your screen. And does that still look like it's in focus? I'm hoping.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Okay. So from here, I'm going to go back into my settings. Again, the settings is where you can control all the customizations you want to make. And I'm going to go into display. And then I'm going to change my brightness up here at the top. And if I go down, I can make it less bright, or I can go up and make it brighter. Now, I want to caution you to not go all the way down, because if you go all the way down, then you won't be able to see what's on your screen. So I recommend keeping it at least where you can still see the words on the screen. And if you want it brighter, because it's a little too dim, you can put it up a little higher. Okay. The other thing I want to mention real quick, this blue light filter, most of your phones and tablets have a blue light filter, which allows you to filter some of that LED blue light out, which we use. And night mode is something you might use at night when you're getting ready to go to bed, but you're going to read an ebook on your tablet. You might want to put on the night mode and the blue light filter so that it makes it a little it's easy enough for you to see it, but it also takes out some of that blue light, because they have done studies to show that that blue light can interfere with REM sleep. So, okay, so that's screen brightness. All right, and then I'm going to go back to my home screen, and I'm going to show you how you can adjust that also. So if I come up here and I'm doing my quick access settings, there's a little spot in the middle here where I can pull this down further and I get more choices. And one of those choices down here at the bottom, this is your screen brightness. So you can turn it up or down right there, okay? Now the other thing here, if you'll notice, here's our Bluetooth and our JBL Flip 4 speaker. If I don't want to connect to that anymore, again, I can tap that and turn off the Bluetooth. Okay, and now it's no longer connected to the speaker. So you can also do that from your quick settings. Okay, all right, and we showed the screen timeout. So we'll take another moment for questions before I move on to talking about apps. Questions about customizing your experience?
I think we're good so far.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and change my settings here so that my screen does not time out quite as fast. Here, I'm going to change. So again, I'm going into my settings and I'm going to go into my, let's see, my lock screen. Oh, sorry, I'm going to go back. So here I'm going to use my back button down here on the device to go back, and I'm going to pick my display, and I'm going to do my screen timeout. I'm going to change it to 5 minutes. That way it won't go dark quite so fast. Okay, then we'll go back home screen again, back to here. All right, so then I'm going to go ahead and talk about apps and the task manager button, and we'll do some playing with those things. All right, so when I want to open an app, it's pretty simple. All you have to do is just tap on that app and it should open for you. So for example, since I already used Chrome, I think maybe I'll do, let's see, what else do I want to do? Let's do the Play Store. So if I tap the Play Store, that is actually where you can download new apps, which I'll also show you in a second. So we'll open the Play Store. Okay, so that's opening an app. It's basically just to tap it, it should open up for you. Okay, now the task manager, which again is over here on the left-hand side, if I tap on it, you'll see it brighten up here. Okay, it's those two little squares. If you notice, here are all the apps that I currently have running on my tablet. So each of these is running in the background. So if I wanted to go to a different one, like let's say I want to go back to Google, and I remember that I opened Google a while ago, I can tap on it here and it'll open Google back up for me. Now, I can tap on my task manager again and Google's going to come right back into that list. So if I'm wanting to close one or all of them, you'll see down here there's a close all button. That will close all of those apps out at once. Or I can choose to do it individually by swiping up. If I swipe up like this, it will close those apps, just like that. Then it'll bring me back to home. So that's the really nice thing about Task Manager. Task Manager allows you to switch between apps that are open or close out of any of the apps that you already have open. Questions about Task Manager? It's very useful if you've got a whole bunch of stuff open. If you're a heavy phone user like I am, where I open a bunch of stuff and then jump back and forth between them a lot of the time, and then I remember and go, oops, I need to close those things. Then I hit the task manager and I can close them all out at once. I also play some games on my phone. And if I forget and I leave, you know, like Scrabble going in the background, or a game that Rebecca and I play called Pokemon Go, which does run down on your battery life after a little while. It's good to remember to close out of those apps because they will take some battery life away. So, okay, questions about that?
I think
Nothing?
we're good so far. I don't see
Nothing
any
so far?
raised hands or anything.
Okay, perfect. All right, so to install a new app, you're gonna use your Play Store. And if you tap on the Play Store, and I'm gonna go ahead and download one of our apps that we use in the library called Libby. Libby is by a company called Overdrive, and it's actually one of our apps that anyone can download that gives you access to ebooks and audiobooks that you can then listen to or read on your tablet. So I'm going to tap up here in the search. So if everybody saw that, the little magnifying glass here signifies a search. And that's true pretty much universally for anything you get into with tech. So if you notice, when you go to Google for the first time and you go to put in a search term, there's a little magnifying glass there too. Now, the only time that's not true is if it has a big plus sign in it or a big minus sign in it, then it probably means to zoom in or zoom out. But in general, if it's just a magnifying glass without anything inside it, it means search. Okay, and so I'm going to search for Libby. And incidentally, if you're interested, we do have a class where we will teach you how to use those e-resources that we have to help you get ebooks and audiobooks on your Android tablet. So, and that I believe will be coming up I think it's in October, but we'll confirm that for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Libby by Overdrive. And the reason I'm picking this one and not the others is that I see this icon for the app. That is how I know that this is actually the app. And I'm going to tap on it. And then it's going to tell me that I can open or uninstall Libby. If I say open, that's going to open the app. If I say uninstall, that's going to uninstall it from the device, which I will show you in more detail in a second. So I actually wanted to do one that we don't already have on there though. So I'm going to go and try one of our other ones, which is called RB Digital, which is digital magazines. So we're going to go and hit RB Digital. Whoops, I think I have to put a space in there to search for it. Let's see. Maybe that's folded into Overdrive already. Let's try Canopy. I'm going to run through all of my, library apps here. All right, let's try Canopy. Oops, go back. We can search for Hoopla. And then I'm going to hit the search magnifying glass. And Hoopla we already have installed, so that's why it says open. I thought I deleted a couple of these, but I guess maybe I didn't. So we'll try this instead and see if it's on there. Yep, so open. So we just have to open it from there. Let me show you how to uninstall, and then we'll go back and reinstall it and show you how it looks when it's downloaded. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go to down here in the bottom right-hand corner where you have the little grid with all the dots. This is all of your apps. So if you notice one of these on any of your devices, this means all apps. So I'm going to tap on that. Then I can find my apps in here. So let's go ahead and find, oh look, there's our Libby app. So I'm going to go ahead and long press on Libby. And there's two things that can happen when I do that. And I will take it back down here for a second. So when I long press on it, I get the option to remove from home, which means removing it from that home screen, or to uninstall it. I'm going to tap uninstall and say, okay, that I want to uninstall it. Okay, now it'll disappear from there. And now when I go back to my Play Store and I go back out here and I search for Libby, I'm going to get install. Okay, so anytime you're installing a new app, it's going to say install. Now for Libby, we already had it previously. So it's going to say install, and I'm going to hit install, and then it's just going to install the app. You can see it's going to download, and this little circle around it, when that gets to the end, it'll complete its download. and it's going to download over our Wi-Fi connection, which is hopefully working just fine here. Yep. And then now I could say open. And it's going to open Libby for us. Okay. Now remember, if I want to go back, I hit, oh, and it looks like it's going to install an update. Yay. It's always good when your apps update. So I'm going to go back to my home screen, tapping that right there. If anybody saw that right here, the home screen to go back here. Now, if I go like this and I'm like, where's Libby? Where did it go? Well, it is downloaded to your device, but you have to tell it that you want it to be on the home screen or a different screen. So, and what I recommend people do is the home screen is best for those apps that you use often, that you find yourself using a lot of the time. So I'm going to go back into my apps, which is all of them together. So you see this is all of my apps. And again, same construct here. We have the circle down here, right here. I'll do it this way. The circle down here for one screen, circle here for a second screen full of apps. So I'm going to go ahead and press on Libby, and then I'm going to pick, oh, let me put that back in focus and try to make it a little darker. Can you see that okay?
It's a little dark, but
Let me see if I
I
can
think
make
maybe
it,
if you zoom in a little
see
bit.
if I can do a little bit of adjusting this screen here so you can see it a little better. And we'll see if we can zoom in a little. Okay, better?
Yeah, that looks a little better.
Okay, so here I can select add to home. When I hit add to home, here comes the Libby app. Now, it added it here, but I'm gonna go ahead and move it, and I'll show you how to move apps here in a second too. I'm gonna move it to my home page right there. Okay. So now Libby is there, because let's say I use Libby a lot of the time. Sorry, let me move that up a little bit. If I use Libby a lot, now it's on my home screen. Okay. So that's how you would install the app and then go and find it. Okay. Now to delete or uninstall, I'll show this again just so we make sure we can see it. I can long press on it, which means I'm holding it down. And then I can tap uninstall, and that'll remove it. Now you want to be careful with removing apps, because there are some apps that deliberately have to be there because they actually control what happens on your tablet. So apps like settings, if I tap on settings, you'll see it does not let me delete settings, because if you were deleting your settings, well then you can't change or customize anything about your experience. So you want to make sure you keep those settings there. Okay. A couple of other things like that too. A lot of them you can, so for example, when I got my Android phone, they had a deal with the NFL, so there was an NFL football app on it. I don't really want to play the game for the NFL football, so I was able to delete that app. But some of them you want to make sure you don't delete if you might need it. And one way to find out is to go out online and say, hey, has anyone tried to delete this? And then see what people have said. So I recommend only deleting apps that you've installed or that you really know you don't ever want to use them again. Okay. For those things that you're unable to uninstall, but you don't want to use them, you can utilize moving an app. So let me show again how to move the app. So to move an app, all I have to do is hold it down, and it's going to bring up those things. But then the second one that it brings up, do you see how there's that little outline there? And I can now kind of move my app around. This is how I can move it from one place to another. So if I want to move it to a second screen, let's say I don't use this at all ever, and I just want to get it out of my home screen because I never use it. If you go in the middle, you can actually take it all the way over, and then you can drop it off somewhere else. So we could put it all the way out here and drop it. Okay, then it's going to live. If you look at my list down here of my screens, now it's living on third screen. This is second screen, and this is home screen. So if I wanted to bring it back, I could bring it back to going all the way out here, hold it down. It's going to do that, and then I start to move it slightly. And once you see that circle, kind of like the imprint of where the app was, that's when you can start to move it. And I'm going to move it in the middle to advance from one screen to the other, and then drop it. Okay, now that does take some practice. Even I mess that up occasionally, still to this day. So it does take a little practice and kind of like realizing just how hard you have to press on the screen to move it. It's not a super hard press, it's more like a long press. So it's more about the time that you hold it down to make it move. So I hold it down long enough and then make it move like that. Okay, all right. Now there's one other thing I want to show you guys. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out just a little bit more. Okay, does that look okay? All right. So
Yeah, that looks okay.
Okay, thank you. So to put something into a folder, if you notice over here, I have this thing labeled Google, and you can see these tiny little icons in there. If I tap on that, it's actually a bunch of different, let me make it a little darker so you can see a little better. Okay, so it's actually a bunch of different apps for Google. And up here at the top, it says Google. Well, I've made a folder. So if I tap outside of it, I'll do this again. Let's get lighter again. Okay, so if I tap outside of it, this is the folder. And then inside, you have the different apps. So if there's a lot of apps that you use and you ran out of space, so say you filled all of these up as well, and there's still stuff in here that you use all the time, you can, or you want to group and organize. In a library, we always like to group and organize things. So you can organize and give it a category heading. And you'll see right here, we have one for library. And here we have a bunch of our library apps all in a group. Now I'm going to say I want to add Libby to this group because Libby is also a library app. So I can take Libby, let me make it brighter again so y'all can see it. So I can take my Libby app and I can long press on it again so that I can move it, and I can actually move it down here. And you see how the other apps are kind of moving out of the way? So if I really wanted it to be here, I could move it right here and the rest of them would move out of the way. But I could also take it over here and put it on top of library, and it'll go into that folder. Okay. So then that doesn't look quite right. Let me readjust the focus there. Let's make it a little darker again. There we go. Okay, that looks a little better. So then it's actually in the library folder. I could also change the name of the library folder by tapping on it, and it's going to bring up my keyboard. So I could change the name, and I could say, I could call it apps for reading, or whatever I wanted to call it. Just say done, and then it'll change that name. So when I come back out here, now it says apps for reading. Now, when you want to create a folder for the first time, to create a folder, all you have to do is move one app on top of the other. So let's go ahead and pull out Libby. And then to take it out of it, I just drop it over here outside. See, again, that didn't totally work for me because I was like, come on, let's go. Let's put you, oh, come on. I want you to come out of the folder. There we go. So if you pull it up when you want to get it out of the folder, pull it up this way, then it'll come back to your spot. Okay, let me make that a little brighter so you can see a little better. Now, if I wanted to put Libby and RB Digital in a folder together, I can move RB Digital and put it on top of Libby, and that's going to make a new folder for me. And then I can name that something like library. Okay, so I'm done with that. Hit done, tap there. Now you've got your new folder there. Okay, so that's the rest of what I wanted to show there. So I'm going to pause now and open up for questions about any of the stuff that we've covered today. So if you have any questions about anything at all, go ahead and let us know. And Rebecca can go ahead and unmute everyone, and we can chat about it. Okay, and then I'll bring up the PowerPoint for one last second so we can advertise some of the other upcoming workshops too.
Okay, so we have a question from Deborah. You can go ahead and ask your question, Deborah.
Sure, thanks. This is Debbie. I actually have a slightly different question.
Okay.
I have an Android phone that I dropped and I cracked the screen.
Okay.
And I would like to use this phone as a document camera. So I know that there's a way to connect the phone to, say, an Android tablet. But I'm wondering if, since both of them are Bluetooth devices, if I could use the Bluetooth connection, for example, to bring the document camera, quote, phone into Zoom or another application like that.
The best thing I can recommend is trying it and seeing what happens. a lot of tech is giving things a try and then practicing and seeing if it works. So I myself, I haven't played with using an old Android device as a document camera, but in essence, what we have, our setup today that we have is basically a two camera system, right? I have a webcam, and then I have what we have is an Elmo, which is like a document camera that is broadcasting the tablet screen. And in Zoom, what you should be able to do is toggle essentially between the two different cameras, as long as they're both connected to your computer. So, and I know that with Zoom, with iPhones, you can connect them via AirDrop to, or supposedly you can. We're still working on this at the library, but you should be able to connect them via like a wireless connection to be able to present your phone screen. So you might not even have to use Bluetooth. You might be able to just do it over a Wi-Fi connection as long as the two devices are on the same Wi-Fi network.
All right. So
but
I don't have an iPhone. I've just got a track phone. It's an old track phone.
Okay.
So it would be nice if I could do it without hardwiring it. And so this is what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah. And with a track phone too, they don't have quite as much quite as much power and as much that you can do with them settings wise. But I would say give it a shot. And a lot of times, you know, if you jump out onto Zoom's support page or out to the internet, you can see if someone else has tried to do what you're trying to do and see if they've troubleshooted it already. So that way you don't have to kind of invent the track phone wheel, as it were.
How well I know that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And you know, if you want, I mean, I'm of course, I love tech, so I'm happy to try to experiment with it myself too with my phone and see what I can do to make it work.
Well, I could actually bring my stuff to the library and we could tinker with it a bit. I could do a book of librarian.
Absolutely can, yeah. So you could do a book of librarian. We are doing a lot of those virtually right now because that way we can have more time. If we do them in library, the max is 15 minutes. So I would suggest if you fill out let me go ahead and share that screen actually, because that's a great plug for our book of librarian program. So let me share this real quick, and then I'm going to jump out of my PowerPoint. Oops. And I'll bring up, if everybody can see, I don't know if everybody can see this yet, but let me bring up let's stop share and I'll bring that up. If you want, for anyone who's interested, so this is our website. And if you want to do one of our book of librarian appointments, you can go to Contact Us and then Book a Librarian and fill out this form. And then one of our staff members will contact you, and we can do it over Skype, over Zoom, probably even Google Meet at this point. We're happy to try to explore that. Or you can actually come into the library and do a 15-minute in-library appointment. With that suggestion, I think a Zoom meeting might be the perfect way to do that, because then you could actually test sharing your device screens too.
Okay.
So yeah, I suggest filling that out. All right. Let me
Sounds
stop
good.
sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the question. Oh, I can head back to my video too. So just like that, what I just did was basically just toggle between the two videos. And of course, ours are wired to the machine that I'm using right now, but supposedly you can do it with wireless connections too.
It would be a lot easier.
Yeah, they have if you go to the Zoom support page, there's a section on, at least with iPhones doing it, to either a Mac or a Windows machine. I don't know if they have it working yet for Android though.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? No? Okay. Well, I did want to share.
Hello, I
I have a
have two
question.
Yes,
questions.
absolutely. Yes.
Hi, two things. One, you were showing downloading apps. How do we know that apps or a particular app is safe? Because there's a
Yes.
lot of malware and things like that. How can we check before we download it?
That is a great question. And Rebecca and I were just talking about this the other day too, because yes, so the Android App Store is they're improving it all the time. But it is good to vet the apps before you download them. And there may still be some sneaky stuff that gets in there. Nothing's 100%. But what I usually do before I download an app is I actually go out to the internet and I Google the app and I look at the reviews in the place. So I'll go to the Play Store. So for example, I'll give you an example here. So if I'm here and let's say I'm going to download, I'll just pick one off of the Play Store here real quick. So like Libby, right? So all of the library apps that we have that you can download, they're pretty safe because the companies care about library customers. But you never know when you go out there. So for example, I'll go ahead and look at Libby by Overdrive. And then look at the Play Store. So I'll go ahead and put in Google Play Store here. And I'll take a look at here. And I'll look through some of the stuff on this page. So I'll look through and see, okay, the reviews, 4.5 out of 5. That's pretty decent. You know, you can read some of the reviews from people to see what they're saying about the app and reading the reviews. Also, I do recommend once you download an app that you keep it up to date, because a lot of times when they release the new updates, they're fixing things like bugs or issues that come up. So for example, you can see here it says what's new. The most recent version fixed an issue with audiobook samples and an issue that prevented some notifications from being sent. You can look at how many times it's been installed. If it's an app that's only been installed by a couple people, it hasn't really caught on yet, so maybe it's not something you want to delve into too quickly. You can also vet the developer information. So we had a bird app that we were looking at the other day. So let's put bird in here and see if we can get. Let's do identification. So we'll look at some bird identification apps. So this is a lot of bird identification apps, right? This is a little overwhelming that there are this many bird apps out there. But if I was just to tap on this one, first one in there to see what people are saying about it, the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, I might go search for the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, find out more about Cornell Lab, and then look a little bit more about the developer information down here at the bottom. The permissions, what is it asking to use on my device? Because a lot of them, say you downloaded something like Yelp, right? Yelp is an app that will tell you nearby restaurants. So Yelp will ask for your location as part of its permissions. And that's because it's trying to locate restaurants near you. So that kind of makes sense to me. Okay, it needs to know my location in order to give me the recommendations. So the app will ask for that permission. For a photo app is likely going to ask for permission to access your photos. That makes sense to me because its primary job is to help me do something with my photos. But if the permissions for, if I look at the permissions and it's asking for access to my call log, but it has nothing to do with calling, that's going to give me a little pause. And then I might go out and research it a little bit more to see why does this need that access. So a lot of times, you look at the reviews and stuff. And I also follow some of the, tech industry information where if they've vetted an app and it's in the store and then somebody does discover something, there are a lot of folks out there that are Android developers that will discover there's things in other apps. Usually they'll put it out into the media and then you can uninstall it once you found out that there's something that shouldn't be there. I hope that helps kind of answer it. Nothing's
Sure.
100%, but you know, those are the things I usually do when I'm vetting the apps that I download. And I
Okay,
don't
thank you.
necessarily go out and download, you know, like I look through calculator apps because I already have a calculator app that's already installed on the device. And I'm like, okay, I'll just use the one that's already installed on my device because that one came right with the device too.
Okay,
So I hope that helps a little bit.
it does.
Some apps do cost money. So when you see, instead of seeing install here, you would actually see the price of the app. And it does then go to, you know, charging you with your Google account, basically. So, and whatever form of payment you've put in there. Generally, I mean, I've seen an app that costs like $20. That was a really robust photo app, but I'm like, I'd rather try it for free before I'm going to commit to spending that much money on it myself. But again, it's totally up to you, and your device is going to be used for whatever purposes you use it for. So you kind of have to look at what your use is like too. Okay, hopefully that helps answer.
It does.
Good.
I do have one more question, unless somebody
Sure.
else needs to jump in.
Sure, no, absolutely.
Trying to copy paste. Let's say I found something on a website. I wanted to insert it into an email. I've not been
Yes.
able to get it to work on my tablet. I've not been able to do that. Could you please walk through that?
Absolutely. I'm going to stop sharing this screen and we'll switch back to the Galaxy tablet. Okay, everybody can see that. That is a great question. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go out onto Google Chrome and I'll take some. If you're not familiar with lorem ipsum, this is for website developers. When we're using like placeholder text for something, we will often use this lorem ipsum, which is some Latin text. And
You might want to brighten your screen up just slightly. It's a little
thank
dark.
you. Okay, we'll brighten it up a little bit. Better? How's the focus?
It's a
Okay.
little better. It's now a little bit
actually,
too bright,
Let me
maybe.
move this up a little bit more like this and see if I can also make this look a little better, because I'm going to want to get in kind of close, because there is a little bit of fine motor nuance to it with copy and paste too. So I'm gonna, let's see, how's that looking? Does it look too bright now? I can try to
Maybe
make it a
just
little.
one down.
How's
It's a little
that?
dark now.
Okay. It's just the fine tuning with document cameras,
That
right?
looks okay right there, I think.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and just use this lorem ipsum right here. And then on your device, if you want to copy something, if you hold down and long press on it, you're going to get two little blue, kind of like, I call them teardrops. They almost look like little teardrops. And then if you want to highlight more than one word, you can move that other blue teardrop like that. So you can highlight the whole thing of text. And then above that, you should see copy, share, select all, or web search. So I'm going to hit copy, and that should copy that text for me. And then if I go back to my home screen, anywhere where I can put a note, so for example, like Samsung Notes, and I can start a new, add a new note here. And then if I long press on it, oh, sorry, you can't actually see that from where you are. Let me try that. Let me show that again. So jump in here, anywhere where you can put text or write, and then long press on it and say paste. And that'll paste that text. So that should work in an email as well, where basically you would just go down to the body of the email and long press on it and then say paste.
Can you go through that pasting again? Because I'm not able to get it to work. So
yeah, so let me go ahead and I'll just jump out of that one. I won't bother to save that. Okay, so I'm going to go out on Chrome, and then you want to long press on it until you see those two little dots show up.
Okay.
Like that. Then you can drag and highlight whatever you want and hit copy.
Okay.
Then you can go into whatever you want. So for example, if I was, in this case, I was using Samsung Notes, but I could also, let's see, what other one could I paste it into? I could paste it back into Google. I could paste it into, so we'll just use notes again. But then you see already, it knows where that cursor is and it's already telling me I could paste the new text. But if I don't want to paste it right there, I can hit the line, basically like a hard return, and then press myself and say paste. And that should let you copy it. That also should work with text messages. So in your text messaging app, if you long press on the message, and then you can highlight the text and copy and paste it somewhere else. Were you able to get it to work? Second time?
Yeah, I got it to paste in the first time. I was going to try it one
Yay.
more time, but now I'm not getting the paste option again.
Okay. Sometimes you have to make sure you, you might also take your cursor, tap it up somewhere else, like up here, then come back down to where you want.
Okay, I'll play around with it.
And then hit it again like that, and then say paste, because it'll do it again.
And what were the other two options? There was paste and two other things, and I can't
Yes.
read on your screen what they say.
Yeah, so the other option is select all or clipboard. And clipboard is essentially the same as what you have on your computer. If you've saved, like a big piece of text, you can save it to the clipboard and then paste it somewhere else. And select all basically lets you select all the text. So like all of this text that I've just done here, it will select all of it at once. So that works out well, especially if the fine-tuned bit of, if I come back in here, and it's harder to get that like this. If I hit select all, boom, the whole website.
Sure.
So, and then if I tap again, it'll tap off of it. But if I hit this, and then I hit select all, you get the whole site.
Okay.
So yeah, it's helpful. Select all is especially helpful if you want all the text on a page versus having to do the more fine-tuned moving of the little blue teardrop.
Right. Okay. I'll play around with it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Good question. Yeah, I find that very useful if I'm using my tablet to be able to copy and paste stuff. Okay. Other questions?
It looks like Anthony has a question, so let me
Sure.
see.
Yep.
If
And I haven't
we can
forgotten
get him
about
to
the
unmute
ringtone
here.
either.
That's
Yes.
Oh, hold on one second.
Okay.
Okay, Anthony, I think you should be good to, let me try to make sure. There we go.
I don't know if you're ready to handle my question about the ringtone or not. I just didn't want to get forgotten.
Yeah. So if you jump into your settings,
I'm there.
where the little gear is, and then go into sounds and see if there's one for ringtone in there.
There is a setting for ringtone, and so
Okay,
I selected that.
Good. And then it actually should, the default ringtones, it'll give you a couple of different options for your default ringtone. And then you could pick which one you like the best. You can, usually it'll let you listen to them in like little, like probably 10 seconds worth of it. And then you could select one.
Well, when I go into ringtones, it gives just one option or one file, and
Okay.
then a bunch of things that aren't music, like it won't let me play them.
Okay.
But I can go back to a previous directory, and that's what I don't know. Where do I go to find where my original ringtone may have been set so I can see it?
Yeah, you may have to check with your provider. If you have someone like if they have a physical store locally or a 1-800 customer service number, you might check with, because if you had it before the last update.
Right.
Yeah, I would call and check.
I've tried talking to them.
Okay. Yeah. Because yeah, and it may be that if you can reach out to that person who helped you do it the first time and find out where they got the file from, you might be able to basically re-download it and re-put it on there.
Yeah, all right.
That might be the next best way to to get it back too. I mean, your files in general, I can show that to everybody actually too. You know, when you're on your tablet or your phone, you actually can, it actually has more more computing power, excuse me, than the computer we used to land on the moon, which is kind of fascinating to think that our small devices have that much power in them. And you should have the ability to check your files, to basically, you know, upload files through email or browse through your files too. So for example, I go into, so I don't have secure folder installed, but there are things that you can, apps that you can download, like file managers, that will let you see the files that you've downloaded to your device. Or for example, for us, if I go into the gallery, I can see all the photos, and I did some screenshots the other day for this demonstration. Oh, so I can actually show you this. Ha, here we go. So I'll show you this screenshot. This is what our lock screen looks like. So, good question. Great, yay. Brings us back out to here. This is what our lock screen looks like. So if you want to see your notifications from your lock screen without unlocking it, you can pull down from here where these 4 little icons are. You could pull down from there, and that would bring up your notifications. So, okay, so if I have my gallery open and I'm looking at all these different files, you should be able to do different things with those files once you're in them too. So attach, send, share, and do all of that. So you might have to do a little bit of exploring within your device and those device directories to see if you can find where that file went, if that helps at all. So like for me down here, this little guy that looks like a folder, if I tap on that, that'll bring up recent files. So if you have a little folder that looks like that, you might try there first. And then my recent files is going to give me stuff, you know, videos, audio. So you might try audio. Yours might look slightly different than this too, but gives you, hopefully gives you a fighting chance. Other questions? And you could also, if you're interested, again, if you want to try to do a book a librarian appointment virtually, and we can walk through what the different files look like on your device too, and try to help you that way too, and see if we can find it. Okay.
Can you help me figure out what directory I should go to where they would typically store those ringtones?
Well, so for me, if you notice my little file folder here, when I tap on that, this brings up my files. And so somewhere in here in these categories, it might be. So, and audio for me is that's what I would guess, is it would be an audio, because like you see here, it says ringtones for me even though mine is not a phone. So you might start there. And of course, we can also look up the, the manual for your specific phone too, and see if we can try to find it that way too. So yeah, and again, that if you're interested, I'll jump back to my ID, my bird ID page here and show you. So if you went to champaign.org and then contact us, book a librarian, and you could put your information right in here, and then we'll reach out to you and see if we can help you with it. And I do want to also suggest, we have a tech workshops page for anybody that's still hanging around. If you go to the events page, so champaign.org/events, this is where you can see upcoming workshops that we're going to offer. So we have one on Kindles next week. And then in September, we've got some like keyboard and mouse class, getting started with Windows computers, a class on file storage and organization. We'll have an internet class about searching and how to do more searching with like DuckDuckGo, which is a browser that doesn't necessarily track as much for, like the other ones that do more targeted ads. And then here's where on October 6th and October 13th is when we'll have those an e-audio book and movies classes with our apps. So I did want to mention that too. Okay. Other questions? Okay. All right. Well, I do want to say thank you to everyone for coming. If you have feedback for us, please send us feedback through email. I'll have Rebecca, if you can put our email addresses in the chat. Mine is swinkler@champaign.org, and then Rebecca's is rvandusen@champaign.org. Feel free to send us feedback, what you liked about the class today, what you think we should cover in maybe a part 2, or anything like that. We're happy to take feedback, and we do use it to improve the class for the next time we teach it. So we do take it seriously and take all feedback and incorporate what we can. Okay. All right. We do generally try to keep them to about an hour plus a little time for questions. So all right. Any other questions?
More questions.
Sure.
So I think we're good, and you can always reach out to us via email or
sharing my screen and jump back to here. Okay.
And then of course we'll have this recorded too. So if anybody wants to go back and see something we covered earlier, we're gonna have those available.
Yeah.
Event. I don't know quite when, but they will be soon.
Yeah. And a lot of it is muscle memory. So the more you practice, moving an app, moving it back to the other side, the more you practice, changing your settings, the more comfortable you'll become with it, and the more it'll become second nature. So, all right.
Okay. I think we can go ahead and say goodbye. Thank you everybody for attending today.
Thank you everyone for coming today.